Hi, my name is Harris. I'm one of your podcast hosts. I'm also a lawyer at Treadstone Law. For most Canadians, buying, selling, or refinancing real estate, a lawyer is the last thing on their mind. That's unfortunate because lawyers play a vital role in the process. But what choices do Canadians have? Lawyers can be very expensive. Well, Treadstone Law offers resources to Canadians so they have access to the information they need. Whether you sign up for a live workshop or a mailing list, we cover topics to help you make informed decisions and avoid costly mistakes. It's advice you can start using today, and best of all, it's free. Visit treadstonelaw.ca/MAS offer or click the link below to get access right now. If you're looking to retain Treadstone Law, it's never been easier. Our entire process is online. From completing the retainer agreement to your signing appointment, everything is done from the comfort of your own home. We're your digital lawyers. The best part of it is that you don't pay anything when you're retaining our firm. Visit treadstonelaw.ca/MAS offer or click on the link below to retain us right now. Enjoy the podcast. Welcome to another episode of Hustle and Grit. Today on my podcast, I have Parker Coulter. Parker Coulter is the broker of record at Parker Coulter Realty. His goal is simple, is to provide quality service at an affordable price. He believes that paying a high commission to sell your home is a thing of the past. In this technology-driven world, they've brought every efficiency to their business model so that they can keep overhead costs down, which allows them to pass significant savings to their clients without compromising on service in any way. As a full-service brokerage, they provide all the tools and exceptional service necessary to sell your home. Ultimately, their goal is the same as yours, to make sure you get the best possible return on your investment. Welcome to the podcast, Parker.
Harris, thanks for having me. Podcast over after that introduction. I don't know what more I can tell you.
I mean, it's fantastic. You know what? I've loved talking to you. You're a very personal person, and your branding for your brokerage, everything just feels like, I don't know, very relatable. Very professional, very like, I feel like it's you're somebody and your group is somebody that like I would want to work with. That's kind of the aura that we get. And so that paragraph really fits kind of where you're from and what I feel like you represent as well. So I had to say it with some passion. Hopefully it came through.
Totally.
But to kick things off, I just want to know, how'd you get into real estate? I mean, you got a fantastic brokerage. You're very successful. Is being a realtor something that you were like, you know what, growing up, this is what I want to be? Or is this something that you kind of, through your career, kind of moved it into? Like, what's that story behind you getting to where you are today and starting your own brokerage?
Yeah. So, did I always want to get into real estate? No, not necessarily, but I did always have a pretty entrepreneurial background. Real estate really didn't enter my life until I went off to school. I was at Laurier in Waterloo, and at that time, and I mean, it's still such a changing city. I don't make it there as much as I would like, but at that time, like, it seemed like buildings were disappearing and towers were going up, and like the whole student housing industry was like super interesting. I was in a student house for a while, and it just kind of got the gears turning. So I started to do a little research on different markets and student housing, and I ultimately ended up in Barrie, Ontario. It was the pricing was very reasonable at the time. And it was, you were charging the same rents that you would have gotten Waterloo, but housing at the time was, maybe 20-25% cheaper for the same kind of house. So that really attracted me. So I bought a property, and then, my brother and I actually bought another. I know you work with your brother, so
It's just a family business.
yeah, that's right. So I know the perils of that, but I wish we could work together more often. But ended up starting a property management company because I thought, like I had a couple rentals of my own at this point. And I was flipping some houses. So I had an agent at the time, and she was super nice. And I don't know, she worked for one of the big brands. And I think I'd flipped maybe 3 houses before I started kind of asking myself, like, oh, I'm putting in a lot of work here. And like, I think the only person making any money here might be the real estate agent. Like, I should get my license. And that was kind of not only where the real estate career had started was from myself trying to save some money, but that's kind of where this whole model had started to form as well. So sure enough, I got my license, I'm selling my own properties, I'm managing some properties at this time. And then all of a sudden, one of my clients said, hey, listen, like, you've got your real estate license. You're managing one of our properties. I want to get rid of this property. Like, who knows the place better than you? And I said, okay, well, you know what? Like, I got my license to save people money. Like, I'll offer you a discount. He didn't even ask for it. I just kind of offered it up and said, like, you've been great to me, I'll be great to you. And that's sort of where everything started, and the idea had come to. From there, I worked with one of the big brokerages for years and years and years, and they were great business model and really good values. Client is always first, and you make the ethical decision, and really instilled some great business practices, but they really did not like the 1%, as many brokerages still don't. I think that things are changing a bit, but that's kind of where I decided to transition, and just about 4 years ago, maybe even next month, we transitioned out into our own brokerage, and things from there have just grown rapidly, skyrocketed, and it's really taken off the model itself.
So what got you to be dedicated? Like, you're saying that you're working with a big brand and good culture, they're teaching you a lot of stuff, you're learning a lot, you're giving back, there's a community there's all this other stuff there, but there's that one thing where the commission can't be changed, or they don't like that model. What got you to really dedicate yourself and essentially put your money where your mouth is, and kind of go out on your own and actually do this, as opposed to saying, you know what, everything else aligns with this brokerage, there's this one commission issue here, I think I can ignore that, doesn't really matter, I'll just stick to where I am? Like, what made you kind of say, you know what, I'm going to stick to my guns, this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, I've always kind of done things differently. I've always looked for solutions, and I think that's what makes a great entrepreneur, is at least differentiates between a great and maybe an average entrepreneur. And I think a lot of great entrepreneurs end up being average just by bad luck. But willing to take the risks is kind of how you set yourself apart and stray off the path. So the one thing I realized about working for one of these big brokerages was the commission structure was really entrenched in the business model, and it was almost impossible to get out of it. And I'll give you kind of an example. So the brokerage that I worked with had a international head office that took a piece of the pie from every single deal around the world, and then they had a local distributor that I think was maybe at the time like eastern side of Canada kind of thing, maybe into the States. They took a piece, and then from there was our brokerage, which actually had just been acquired by a larger brokerage. So there was, I think the head office of that brokerage had maybe 15 or 16 smaller offices underneath it, all with managers at those offices. And then oftentimes there's a team leader underneath that, and throughout all these steps, everyone's getting a cut, and then you've got your real estate agent, and then administrative staff, and so forth. So you can start to see when everybody's
Mhm.
kind of got to earn a piece of the pie here, it's got to be pretty expensive. Like a commission rate has to justify the squeeze. So I realized right then and there that being with a big brokerage, to build my vision and my model, that was not going to be possible. So we look at the industry today, and there's so many startups on real estate brokerages that have started some sort of discount model, or we'll buy your home, or all these crazy kind of schemes to try and change the industry. And this circles back to where I think some people just get unlucky. A lot of great ideas, but somewhat poorly executed, or grew too fast, and they no longer exist. So to sort of digress off that, we built a really good foundation throughout COVID, and a really good model, and we really tightened our systems up. And now, oddly enough, as things slow down, we're really looking to move forward, really looking to grow, really looking to add agents. I mean, our systems are down to a T. The business model is completely viable. It's just a matter of kind of getting it out there and growing it, because like you kind of alluded to, there is such a need for this model, and people are really looking to save money. And this industry, it's ripe for opportunity and change. And I think we can be that change.
No, and I completely agree. And I from just studies, Canada, especially within the GTA, and I don't mean to anger anybody in the profession, but we have some of the highest commission versus the expenses put in to actually sell the home, because there's definitely the portion that you're talking about where there's a lot of people who have their hands in the pot type of situation, but also in typical markets, when you are getting, for example, even 2%, there's a lot of advertising being done to actually sell the home and all of that stuff, which arguably, at least I don't know about the last 2 years, but prior to that, there wasn't a lot of advertising. It was just kind of, it went on MLS, and then if you had a network, and now people are getting into it. Now you need to find a very strong realtor to really get a good price on your house, and somebody who's got experience with volume, who's got experience with just the entire market. So definitely. But one thing I wanted to kind of talk about is, I think we're talking around it a little bit, but I want to know exactly what your commission structure is that has brought you so much success, what it includes, what's kind of the experience. If I were to hire your brokerage to sell my home today, what's the experience I'm going to go through working with you and your team?
Yeah. So, and you touched on an important thing there. And I think, just to kind of preface the answer before I get into that and tell you a little bit about it, like, our model is not going to be for everybody. I mean, if you're looking to sell a $20 million home, and there's an agent for that. And there's unique scenarios where there's specialists. And I think that's where the industry is going is, if you're an agent, you've got to pick your niche, and you've got to specialize. And, we're not looking to leave anybody behind. We're looking to offer an amazing service at a reasonable commission that is going to appeal to the certain type of person who is looking for what we offer. And we don't offer a package that's for everybody. So our business model is we keep our overhead low. We don't have 10 offices. We don't have a lot of brick and mortar. We pass on those savings to our clients. So when you inquire with us about our service, it's going to look a lot like with any other realtor. Either myself or a member of our team is going to go out and meet with you at the home. We're going to go through, maybe things that you should do to the home to make it more sale ready. And depending on the market, sometimes we'll say, listen, in this market or past markets or whatever the case might be, let's just get it on. It's a good time. There's not a lot of work you need to do. And then we kind of build a plan based on your exact needs on what your goals are. Where are you looking to go? What are you looking to do? It's a one-on-one experience. This isn't a service where you go online, you fill out your info, you get some automated email, you get this. Like it's a one-on-one experience with a professional agent. And people say, well, how can you offer that and not lose something? And the answer is kind of what we were talking about. There isn't this giant pyramid of people that need a paycheck in our business model. It's condensed, it's efficient, it's localized, and the internet, like as you had mentioned, has changed a lot of things. I mean, I'm sitting probably an hour away from a lot of my clients right now going through paperwork. We just did a couple sign backs, like I'm thinking 5 years ago we started to be allowed to use digital signatures. Like the landscape has changed, and we create efficiencies. So when you list with us, you're still getting a full service experience. Professional photographers, professional media expert coming into your home. You're getting professional advice and professional guidance. What you're not going to get from us, frankly, you're not going to get a fruit basket on your birthday. You're not going to get a drop by from us on Christmas.
Yeah.
Like those types of things, there are agents that have built a business off of that. We are here to offer you an amazing service and save you money. And then at the end of the day, I mean, we're gonna love to stay in touch with you. We'd love to get your referrals. We're here to answer any questions all the time. But our number one goal is to save you money and make sure you get top dollar for your home. And those types of things don't achieve that goal, so we've cut them out.
Yeah.
And that's really how we're running our business. That's how we're going to structure our business, is keep the cost low so we can keep the savings high for the customer. And frankly, my goal is to get it below 1%.
Wow.
I think more efficiencies need to be created. Industry needs to change a bit. But the goal is if we can run a profitable business that can expand and continue to save people money, we'll continue to grind down on that commission. And one thing I should note is that although commissions are not set, there's no set rate in Ontario or Canada for that matter. Commissions are completely negotiable and flexible. We do still encourage our clients to offer a full commission, whatever that rate for the area seems to be deemed at, and it does vary area to area. And for that reason, agents work with us completely. They're happy to bring their clients. They're happy to show the property. Our days on market are far less than the average, and that's all part of offering a professional experience and giving people professional advice.
Yeah. I think, and everything that you say resonates with me so much, because being in the industry and being in the real estate legals end of it, we see kind of the back end, the tail end of all these transactions. And to some extent, we also get into the negotiations. And I've seen that for me, for the most part, there's kind of two areas where realtors are working in. Mostly it's in the commission that's kind of been the industry standard for a very long time. And everybody kind of understands that, and it's kind of those unspoken rules off and on off, even between it's when realtors speaking among themselves. They're like, no, this is the industry standard, and they're not willing to kind of budge. On the other end, where there is a lower commission, I found, that it did lack a lot of things. So often enough, people would offer 1%, but they're not giving you the type of advice that you just said, where, hey, listen, you can give us a 1%, but in order to sell your home quickly and effectively, the buying agent also gets a cut, and maybe you need to think about not saving every single penny and then losing a good sale because for one reason or another, you're not attracting the right people.
Yeah.
Or it's not full service. And frankly speaking, I always tell anybody speaking to me, if somebody's giving you a 1% commission and they're not giving you guidance, it's not worth it, because a realtor the right realtor brings a lot of value.
Hmm.
Because in terms of pricing, in terms of negotiations on the sale of the house, in terms of a lot of things, because I've seen a lot of individuals try to sell their home on their own.
Yeah.
It does not look pretty because they'll
Yeah.
get one bully offer and they don't know what to do with it. And pretty soon they've sold it for less than they would have paid for commission had they just hired a realtor, and they don't know, but they feel like because I don't see a number coming out of my sale price going to the realtor that I've saved money, which to me doesn't make sense. So I always say find a realtor, but find a realtor who's going to be able to help you out throughout the transaction, has the experience to negotiate more than anything else, because negotiations, the guidance is priceless.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? Like you probably can attest to this a little more than most, but I see it all the time on my end. And it doesn't have to be a discount realtor. It could just be a plain out bad realtor, or somebody who maybe is new and hasn't had the proper training or guidance. But probably the most expensive thing you can do is hire somebody who's not going to give you that professional advice, whether it's due to lack of qualifications, lack of focus, lack of time. Because by the time it gets to you, the lawyer, and things aren't done right or things are missed in the contract, I mean, who cares if you save $10 or $15,000?
Yeah.
Like those kind of bills can rack up to $100,000, or a deal that doesn't close and it's your fault, and years of stress and litigation or whatever the case might be. So, although we're far from lawyers, and I think some realtors maybe think they are, but our job, in my opinion, is to bring a package over to you guys that is concise, well dealt with, organized appropriately. And if it's kind of in shambles, and it's got littered with errors, or is going to result in the deal
Yeah.
not closing, there's nothing more expensive than that. And that's the cost of hiring, either a poorly trained realtor, or somebody that doesn't have the experience, or again, like some discount models, you just do not get great service.
Yeah, no, but to what you're saying, even sometimes when you're paying full price, because we've seen some realtors, a good realtor. This is what I say. Like when it comes to us, if something happens, everybody's working together to fix a problem. Okay,
Yeah.
that's one thing. Second thing is if somebody does not have the experience. One good example is conditions. I know that there was a time where a lot of individuals thought a firm offer was the most amazing thing you could get. And I was kind of telling everybody in my network, at least the realtors, like, listen, like even if you're selling, a financing condition is not a bad thing. Because they gave a firm offer doesn't mean that they have money sitting in the bank, because 9 times out of 10 they're getting a mortgage, and you don't want to know on closing day that they didn't get a mortgage and now they're going to default, which makes your client default if they're buying something else, and then there's just a whole domino effect.
Yeah.
So having those kind of that's why I say in general, this is just one thing. It's priceless to have just good professionals working along your side and guiding you in the decisions you make, because ultimately it's your decision. It's up to the client to figure out what it is, but it's up to us to give them the best options, given and give them our opinion based on what we've seen,
Yeah.
based on what's happening to them. Give them like, okay, this is what your options, this is what you could choose from, and it's up to them. But if you don't have that, or if you're not explained things correctly, I feel like you can make the wrong decisions. Now, I'm not making any accusations that anybody's explaining things wrong, but I'm just saying that when you're finding a professional, it's something that you really have to think about. Can
For
you
sure.
communicate, right? Like if somebody comes to me and they're speaking like a foreign language, it doesn't matter. I could be the best lawyer in the world. I can't help them because I can't
No.
make them understand. It's the same thing. So you have to really find a professional that you can understand. And even though you may be speaking the same language, sometimes we still talk past one another, and you need to find somebody you really kind of understand, so that if things get difficult, you have somebody that you can speak to and understand. And the reason why I kind of emphasize this now is because now more than ever, we're seeing just more difficult, challenging transactions closing because
Yeah.
there's always something going on. Sometimes you have negative equity with the seller end, with the buyer
Hmm.
end is having difficulty getting mortgages. And instead of kind of fighting, it's about finding a good solution to make sure the transaction closes because that's the ultimate goal. But there's a lot of stuff that's going on that didn't happen 2 years ago, and you need somebody that you can understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like when I first envisioned this business, I have such a passion for it. And, I'll sit around, have a cup of coffee and like think and think, how can I make it better? How can I do this? But when in the early days of envisioning this, I envisioned, loads of technology. I had these we had concepts that we had developed, and it was going to be like a couple clicks of the computer, and you're never going to talk to anybody, and they're going to show up, and they're going to do this,
Mm,
and as we started to build that out, and this is why I think like as much as real estate's ripe for change, I don't think it's going to change the way that car sales is going, or I don't think
yeah.
it's going to be completely digified because it's so personal. It's like kind of going to see a doctor,
Mm,
like yeah, sure, it's not your personal body, but like it is in most cases people's second most personal thing. It's their home. It's where they've raised their family. It's the majority of their net worth. It's such a personal experience that some computer, at least in this modern world, and there will be some solutions out there for this for the
mm,
right person who maybe wants to sell their own house, but in this modern world, it's still going to be an industry that's going to take agents and people. So I think the real question is, and what everyone wants, they don't want to get rid of the people, they want to save money. And the way that we do that is we find efficiencies. Like, having a person involved does inherently make a transaction more expensive. You look at the automotive
mm,
industry, they've replaced hand painted cars with robots that paint cars. So there are things that are going to replace people, but the real estate industry, like you asked me 5 years ago, I thought, oh, realtors are going to be decimated. I think more than ever, I wouldn't say arguably we need more realtors because we have a lot out there right now, but I think we need better realtors that can do more transactions. And I mean, that's what our business is striving towards. I mean, we're really looking to hire right now. And when we speak to agents, they say, well, wow, like a certain percentage of 1% really isn't much of a paycheck. Yes, that's true. But when you're doing 30, 40, 50 deals a year,
mm,
it's a whole different ballgame. And that's kind of where the efficiencies come into play. Let's get agents set up so they're so efficient that they can go from working with 5 clients to 50 clients, and that's where I see the industry going. And I mean, you probably see it a bit in your industry too, is like there's
mm,
all this technology where even paperwork. I mean, like you and I were pretty young. Like we probably weren't in the super grind of the old fashioned, like writing things down and like stamping. I mean,
mm.
lawyer industry is a little different. You still got to do a bit of that, but like it's just things are so much better than they once were, and I think we can make them better. It's just making sure that people don't lose that quality, and that's what I always say. Like when we have our team meetings, quality, quality, quality. The minute we lose our quality, we're just a discount brokerage, and and
Yeah.
and that's the reality.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you. I think it's more the industry's going. It's not that I think a lot of people went from they're on the camp of you just need it to be the way it was, and then
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in the camp of we're just going to replace everybody, and it's just going to be just AI talking to me. But the reality is, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. You're going to have people that augmented with AI will be able to, like you're saying, do more. And I always have in my podcast, if you see cars around, I'm a car guy, but I always say that like before, and this is kind of the mantra of our firm too, where if you look at like prior to the assembly line, where how cars were assembled. They were assembled like in a factory, but they were laid out separately. There's probably 2, 3 guys that built the entire car.
Yeah.
It wasn't efficient. It
No.
wasn't cheap, and the quality wasn't good. Whereas when you have the assembly line, right, and there's a person kind of doing similar things over and over again, they're just so experienced at it that they can do it better, they can do more of it, and they just are able to build better quality cars for cheaper and more of them. So
Yeah.
it's a win-win-win situation all the way around.
Yeah,
And I feel
and
like,
that is a great point. I mean, the advent of the assembly line changed how products were built, and I think like that is in part, like you touch on. I'm getting all these great ideas all of a sudden, um, but in part, part of the problem with real estate is, and it circles back to what I was saying earlier. Everyone is a one size fits all agent. Even
mm,
agents not on my team, like if I can offer any advice, like if you're looking to getting started or whatever the case might be, like it's okay to turn down a listing that isn't up your ballpark because it's
mm,
probably going to be the best thing you ever do. And instead of trying to figure it out, refer that out to somebody who knows. Like if you're a condo specialist in downtown Toronto and a cottage comes up in Muskoka, like you probably don't even know how a septic functions. It's not going to be a good go. So and vice versa. Like you probably don't know anything about a status certificate if you're a guy or gal that sells cottages up on some small lakes. So specializing in what you know is efficiency on its own, and I totally agree. I think like we need more of that. We need people to be that one person on the assembly line that knows their industry and knows their specialization down to a T.
yeah, no, yeah, 100% agree. I want to change gears a little bit for
Yeah.
kind of the last portion of this podcast, kind of speak more into what's going on in the market. I mean,
Yeah.
it has been all over the place. If we started off, I think the beginning of last year was like the highest prices ever. Then we had unprecedented rate hikes.
Yeah.
Now inflation came to be at 3.8%. We paused rate hikes, but they're still on the table. But a lot of economists have come out saying the Bank of Canada is overshot. There's all this like economic stuff that's going on. But
Yeah.
for the average Canadian, they're just thinking, should I be buying, selling? Like, if I do buy and sell, should I buy first, sell second? Like, if you are a Canadian, let's start off with, I guess, first time home buyers.
Yeah.
What are the type of things that you should be thinking about in this market, given the circumstances that you should kind of plan out for the next 6 months, a year?
Yeah. Yeah, so first time home buyers, the advice I'm giving right now, and like I hate to see these videos, I see it all the time. Well, look at the math on if you bought 6 months ago and prices were 15% higher, but the rates were at 3%, and you buy
Yeah.
now and prices have dropped 15, but the rates are at 7. Like your payment's the same or slightly higher, but like rates are going to fall. Like that's the message right now. And I don't disagree. I think that rates are going to fall, and I think we are going to see some reprieve here. However, I think the thing we need to keep in mind is, are they going to fall quick enough to change that financing scenario? And what I mean by that is, okay, we did I think it was 11 or 13 rate hikes, not consecutive. There was a couple breaks, but
Yeah.
um, if we do a quarter point drop, is that going to change your affordability? No, it's not necessarily. And so how many drops have to happen? So, to kind of beat through the bush here, the thing I'm kind of telling first time buyers is, what is the scenario you're currently in? Are you losing your rental property and you now need to find another one, and you're in a really bad spot and you can afford to buy and you can afford to be somewhere for 5 years? Great time to buy then. Like I
Mhm.
think, like you're going to go through the stress of finding a new place that you might lose in a year, and you're willing to be in a place for a long period of time. If it's a stepping stone for you and you only plan to be there 2 years, a little bit of patience might be a good idea, because this could drag it a little longer. I mean, the States is still rocking economy and we're largely tied to them. If we start dropping before they do, our dollar is going to crash, inflation is going to go back up. It's going to be this terrible mess that's going to keep interest rates higher for us, or put the Bank of Canada in a really tough spot. So, I think this message out here that, and maybe it's a little self-serving, that like things are going to get better overnight, like next spring is going to be crazy, you're going to be locked out of the market, could be a possibility. I'm not saying it's not, but there aren't any indicators statistically that are going to lead to that right now. So first-time home buyers, I think, look at your scenario, look at your finances, make a worst case scenario. If rates stayed higher for longer, can you continue to afford that and enjoy your life? And are you going to be okay if prices do drop further and your negative equity on your home a little bit? Can you ride that out for 5 or whatever years? So just kind of assessing the scenario. And this is where it comes back to talking to a professional and getting good, honest advice. I mean, if somebody's just telling you, oh, you have to buy because now is the absolute best time, like, I think you got to take that all with a grain of salt. I mean, it's obviously not the best time to buy in any measure of recent times.
Yeah. So, and for those of you who are listening, if you do want to reach out to Parker, I just want to plug this in. His contact information is below or on the side, depending on where you're listing. But so that's first time home buyers. If you're stepping up and you want to move to a bigger house in a different area, and I'm not talking about you have to move. If you've got a job somewhere else, you have to move. But if you could choose, does your advice stay the same, or does it
totally different advice?
What would you advise those guys?
Well, so I mean, like it's just simple mathematics. If you're selling a $500,000 home, and I mean, this doesn't strictly apply across the board, because different segments of the market are shifting differently and in different areas also. But in large part in our area, Simcoe County, if you're selling a $500,000 condo or $600,000 townhouse or whatever the case might be, and you're going up to $1 million home, they've largely reacted the same way. So let's just use round numbers. A 10% decrease on 500K is 50 grand. 10% decrease on $1 million is 100. So you're now getting into some savings. What I would say is something that really needs to be considered is, what does the mortgaging scenario look like? Are you going to lose a really good rate that you can run out for two further years? Or are you able to port that and do a blended, or what are your options there? So, there's no one blanket scenario here, but I would say that there's a lot of opportunity if you're looking to upsize and find some fantastic value in the market. But you got to talk to somebody and look at the whole picture, because there is more to it. But generally speaking, I think it's a great time to do that.
So how early on should, whether they're first-time home buyers or moving up buyers, how early on should they reach out to you and your team? Is it like 3 months, 6 months, a year? What's the best time to talk to you about what they're thinking about, and how prepared should they be for any kind of conversation?
Honestly, I mean, it's really hard to predict where things are going to be in a year. So everything we say a year out is going to have a giant asterisk. I mean, hard to predict a month out. But I think the earlier you can reach out, the earlier we can get your scenario. We can make some notes on what you're looking for, and we can start looking for flags in the market that are indicative of what you're trying to achieve. So, if you're a first-time home buyer, like, I'm going to give you my honest advice, and you might not like it, and like, that's perfectly fine. And if you end up saying, like, I want to buy a house today, even though I can't afford it, and like I'm stressing and rates are going to have to drop, that's the only way I'm going to make this work, but I can float it for a year, probably not a client I'm even going to be willing to take on. But I'll give you the good advice. So I guess to answer your question roundly, the sooner you can get a hold of us, the sooner we can put a plan together that's going to work for you. I mean, if you don't want to follow that plan, then that's fine. Like we're certainly not your parents or anything of that nature, but we'll give you some good advice. And
Yeah.
the sooner you do it, I mean, you're never tied to us. We don't. We don't say, oh, you talked to us once and now you got to use us. I'm happy to chat. As you can probably tell, I'm a pretty chatty guy.
Yeah.
So
No, no.
give us a call.
Very personable.
Yeah.
No, that's good to know. I find that contrary to what you're saying, a lot of times people are like, you know what, always a good time to buy, always a good time to buy, and nobody's kind of saying maybe. And it's not that you're saying it's not a good time to buy. It's more like, hold on, let's evaluate for your specific scenario what's the best answer, and the same answer is not going to apply to everybody.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'll give you I give a good example. Like I put my money where my mouth is on this one. In 2021, I said to our agents at the latter half of the year that I think things are getting extremely bubbly. We did about, I'm going to say 200 rough transactions in that year. Probably in the latter half of the year, the latter 6 months, I bet you only 3 or 4 purchases. And they were purchases where people were making, like, we were not, I said, absolutely do not let a client buy a house before you sell, which was totally against popular at the time. It's like, oh, your house will sell. Well, for all those people that got caught on the flip side when things flipped, and I had stories coming out the yin yang, we took clients over. So, and I said to my agent, you do not, until their house is sold, like, we can find them a place. We will die trying. We will put them up in a hotel or an Airbnb but you do not put them in that position, because financially that could be devastating. So, I mean, we are very much looking out for the client, and we want to make sure that they're not in a bad position. And although the advice is very much different today, it echoes the same sentiment of, we want to make sure that this client makes not only a good financial decision, but a good decision for their family as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love chatting with you. I think we're a little bit long, and I'm gonna have to sign off. But I would love to have you on another podcast.
Yeah,
you've got some amazing advice. Before we sign off, any last words to any of our listeners?
No, I mean, honestly, if people just want to call and chat, like I love chatting anything real estate. I love giving advice, whether it's the right advice or not. I can guarantee it's not always the right advice, but happy to chat. Call me anytime, and I'm sure you can find my info online. Just Google my name. I've got 2 first names, so I'm easy to find.
And for those of you guys who are listening on this podcast, Parker's information's either on the side or on the bottom, depending on where you're listening. Thank you for joining us, Parker.
Yeah, Harris, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing it again soon.